All right. If you boys had to face off against either the Thing or the Xenomorph from Alien, which are you choosing?
What kind of thing are we talking about?
The Thing.
I mean, I just feel like there's a lot of like
iterations of said thing. Yeah.
Are we talking about the one coming out of the dog, or are we talking about like Bennings just chilling?
I am talking about you are either a crew member on the Nostromo or you are a scientist at Outpost 31.
Scientist. Outpost 31.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think I'd survive, but I like those odds more.
Okay. I am Nostromo for sure.
Ooh. I think I am too.
Yeah.
What?
I think your odds of survival are actually a lot better.
There's a singular enemy
yes.
that cannot disguise itself from you, that looks a very specific way and is going to try to do a very specific thing to you.
Such like a crazy hunter.
I mean, we're talking, the Xenomorph is like the scariest thing ever created, but it's one thing.
Yeah.
It can be ran from, it can be hidden from, it can potentially even be harmed or tricked. The thing is beyond our comprehension and can be in the form of other things. It can assimilate. I mean, I don't want to get fucking assimilated.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, who's in our crew? Are you guys in my crew?
No,
you're thrown into that.
You're with these guys, or you're with the Nostromo. In which case, I'm sticking right next to Ripley. Like, don't worry, we're gonna get through this.
All right. Well, that's
you know what I mean?
Now.
I mean, even still, shot to the skull. Like, if you're lucky with the tongue,
tail or,
I mean, worst scenario, you get
bisected.
You get put into the molting nest stage, and you get impregnated. Not ideal by no means. That actually looks pretty fucking terrible.
That's pretty fucking
I'm very much with Kaylin. Like, you know what your enemy looks like.
You guys are convincing me for sure, but
I mean, granted, you're in fucking space, and that sounds terrible.
I mean, it's pretty bad.
It sounds pretty fucking terrible.
It's pretty bad.
God, can you believe people choose to go to space willingly?
No.
God, it's like the worst.
You know, you were mentioning nightmares earlier. I have nightmares about being on a space station or being like on the moon.
Don't put this in my brain.
But it's not like anything is happening. It's just like I'm in fucking space.
I'm on the moon.
I'm not on Earth. Like, help me. Human beings were not meant to.
Little kids dream about that. That's
God,
their
it's
ultimate
so
goal.
scary. And people tell me that I'm like too conservative with the things I'm willing to do and not do.
Yeah.
But like, there's a reason why you don't go to the bottom of the ocean or up into fucking space.
Yeah.
bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, fuck that, man.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
Here's the fuck that.
Yeah.
Like,
Welcome back to the Jony Horror Podcast.
I still think I'd take my odds.
All right, now I got a further question. Which one do you do? If you have to deep sea dive or go to space, which one are you doing?
Space.
I mean, in real life, deep sea dive. I'm not going to fucking space. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't think I am either. I have been the one to say like, hey, we know more about space than we do our ocean, but I think my brain is much more comfortable going underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, there's nothing about space. I never
It's
ever want to go to space.
unnatural.
Ever. Yeah.
Like, you're not supposed to be out there.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, not even.
And I get that, and I feel like, I agree with
Don't get me wrong. I do not want to go to the bottom of the ocean
Same.
in any way, shape, or
Same.
form. But
at least there's a bottom.
yes.
that's
Yes.
right. There's a bottom.
As I'm arguing my own decision again. had never watched the movie Drift. What was it? Where George Clooney and
Gravity.
Gravity. They're just. I never watched it. Of them just spiraling out into space.
Dude,
but it is
worth a watch.
I would take my helmet.
There's this. I think the bit that sticks with me, and this isn't a movie that has no business having this effect on me, but in Armageddon, when the dude is in the tractor thing or whatever, and it gets launched into space and it's just floating away. Horrific. Hate that. I think that very much a very similar thing happens in Deep Impact, where a dude just gets launched into space.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that shit.
Yep.
I fucking hate that shit so much. No, thank you.
And there'd be no way for anyone to ever save you.
Yep.
There'd be nothing anyone in the world could do. You're gone. That's that.
See you. Yep. Space dust now.
What about Rick and Morty? I'm sorry.
I was just watching this stupid Space Snake episode the other day.
Space Snake.
It's like, that's why you stay in the fucking car. It just fucking kills me. Oh god, I love that. But yeah, no, again, thanks. Cool. Ocean, I guess. Whatever. Mars, fuck you up.
And these are the type of things we discuss here.
I have too much. Sorry.
No, it's good.
I just have too much faith in humanity. I think as a group, we could survive against the thing. As a bunch of idiots, I'd rather go to space.
Yeah,
it's just.
I think Kayla and I are appropriately nihilistic.
Okay. That's
right.
Anyways.
As it should be here on the Jony Horror Podcast. Take my intro away from you, why don't you son of a bitch? Oh, boys, we've been lost in this fucking snowstorm talking about The Thing, ladies and gentlemen. 1982 sci-fi horror monster creature feature from John Carpenter starring Kurt Russell, based on the novella Who Goes There by John W. Campbell, right? That sounds about right.
John Campbell.
Junior? I don't think that was in that. Okay. That wasn't in my notes. I didn't have the junior in my notes. I will be firing my assistant.
He is correct.
Yep, it is correct. Then again, it's Wikipedia, and can we trust Wikipedia? That's all I'm saying. I am your host. This podcast is a fucking mess.
We're already off the rails.
I am your host, Jony Horror. With me tonight, I have two guests / co-hosts. Well, they're co-hosts in name only. They're not being paid. So,
right.
My official co-host of the Johnny Jaws cast, my partner in crime, my brother from another mother,
Brian Calvert!
And sitting right next to him, a very, very arguably more handsome man.
Very arguably, he says. Very arguably.
With better facial hair.
Okay.
Was my what was your title at Starbucks? Were you?
I was your supervisor.
Supervisor at Starbucks.
You never did anything I said.
Come on, man! It's Starbucks. I don't think it. I took so many bags of protein powder. Is the statute of limitations? What is it? Like, how many years does it take?
I think we were arguably allowed to take the protein powder.
Okay, cool. We were arguably allowed to take the protein powder.
I mean, we took protein powder from the store, because we...
You sold protein powder?
This is, so not a good podcast topic, but yes, Starbucks had protein shakes, and Johnny and I would take the protein with us sometimes home to make protein shakes.
Gosh.
Because protein's expensive, and Starbucks didn't pay very well. We were trying to get fucking swole.
Still don't. And we still are. Caleb Behrman, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, boy. we are continuing our discussion on The Thing. If you missed out on the previous episode, please do go check that one out. We had a lot of good stuff to talk about, particularly things we favored about the film, things we didn't like about the film. Couple other fun little bits in there. Just one or two. I don't know. We talked for like 2 hours, so I'm sure there's a couple of nuggets in there. But we're gonna keep on talking about this movie. We're gonna talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff, elaborate on some of the characters, and see if this movie was even liked at all when it first came out. And a couple other things in this episode. So if you're tuning in, we're happy to have you, and we are going to continue to try and fight this snowstorm that we're dealing with. I think I see a light up there, which is weird because I'm pretty sure that when I left the other day, I turned off the light, but we're going to head straight up to McCready's shack. So here at McCready's shack, at this stage of the camp, I just have one question for you fellas. If you were going to be showing this film to your friends, what cocktail, beverage, and or drink would you be serving to your guests? Kaylin, why don't you take it away?
The first thing that comes to my mind is something called a green show, which is a French winter cocktail where you use a nice high-quality dark chocolate hot cocoa with about 2 ounces of the French liqueur chartreuse, green chartreuse. And you top that bad boy up with whipped cream. That is definitely my favorite winter cocktail. It's my favorite cold time cocktail and my favorite Christmas cocktail. Yeah, and I think it'd be a perfect drink for this movie. Yeah.
Damn!
You fucking piece of shit. Dude. You said fuzzy navel the last episode. You couldn't come up with that shit.
I'm a fucking bartender.
I gotta do a little aside here. All three of us have been bartenders at some point of our lives. Cameron and I are still bartenders. He's a better one than I am. Go fuck yourself, Brian! But,
are you French liqueur? Are you?
It depends,
we are now.
It depends on if you consider Curacao French.
Hey, that's in one of my drinks.
I wonder what you picked.
No, you go first.
I must say that I told these fellows we could not use J&B Scotch as the beverage of choice because it was too on the nose. So it's just Brian just did J&B Scotch with blue curacao. I call it the Thing.
It's Scotch, but it's blue and it tastes worse.
Winter.
Perfect.
Oh man, dude, I'm just going adios, man. Like, there's like if I am in this scenario, I am a highly anxious person. The only time I do not feel incredibly anxious is when I am drunk. Sometimes I try to mask that with I'll smoke a little bit of weed, but that can go either way, you know? So, only time that I do not fear for the sake of my child, the sake of humanity, from earth-shattering earthquakes or being absolutely obliterated by nuclear bombs. These things cloud my thoughts on a minute-to-minute basis every single day of my life. And the only time that I do not feel that way is when I am nice and intoxicated off of a toasty beverage. So if I were to find myself in the absolute paranoia that these characters are put in this film, yeah, fuck me up. Blue curacao goes with the theme, snow, posters blue. I'm gonna do blue curacao with a nice little I don't know, like origami marshmallow in the shape of a snowflake as a garnish.
That's cute. That's a good touch.
That is my drink.
That's nice.
That is my drink of choice. And adios, because we're all fucking dead. So,
FYI, I chose Fuzzy Navel for Razorback.
Okay.
because he.
Oh, thank you.
No.
Yes. Okay. Okay. The immediate recognition of drink to movie. Fuck you.
It's actually a little bit frustrating how okay with that you were. Brian, what's your drink?
I have two.
Oh!
Let's go.
The first one I picked was a zombie brain shot. Just based off the look alone.
Right. Those probably taste like shit.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's in them. It's probably trash.
Yeah.
Is it like the blue Bacardi?
No, it's like it's something that curdles because it does that. It looks like a brain at the top,
like
but it's
Irish
like
cream?
draining. Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And it has like probably grenadine in there somewhere because it looks like a zombie brain that's like pulling itself down from the top.
Definitely.
It looks very cool.
Aesthetic wise, yeah,
it
it
looks-
doesn't sound ideal.
Yeah, no, it sounds disgusting.
Kind of like sort of like an alien brain hemorrhage. Like I think those look even cooler. That might even be a better drink for this situation. Anyway,
that would have been a good one.
What's your other one?
Best bartender.
My bad, guys. What's your other drink?
Fuzzy Navel.
Okay.
Fuck you. No. I looked it up online, actually. It's called Jack Frost, apparently.
Okay.
It's a pina colada with blue curacao, but they put shredded pineapple around the rim.
I like that.
So it looks all snowy looking.
Shredded pineapple or shredded coconut?
Or sorry, coconut. Yeah. Sorry,
Shredded
shredded coconut.
I mean, pina coladas are delicious.
Shredded
so-
pineapple.
No, actually, Brian, I think I might need to give it to you for that drink alone, because that actually sounds like it's probably like not only is the drink frozen, but the garnish of the frost on top, and it's blue. So
That's blue. It's a blue pina colada.
yeah,
I would drink it.
I would absolutely.
I would drink one.
Pina coladas
Great.
are
Pina
fucking
coladas
fantastic.
are very good.
And if they make them good, you can get a little bit of a buzz off of them.
I do not remember last time I had an AMF. It's been a very long time.
I don't
And I don't
drink
even know
AMFs
what
because I
fucking drink you were
have
talking
self-respect.
about.
So.
It sounded very elegant. I have no idea what you were making.
Oh,
Sounds
a green
delicious.
show. Yeah, I drink those. I drink those in the winter.
Yeah, Please tell me more about
Do you
Green
want-
Joe's and what it was like cutting down forest trees.
Grandpapa.
So
I win.
Yes, you get that one. I think that one is aesthetically
That's two,
pleasing,
baby.
and it's a. What do you mean that's
Jack
two?
Frost and Fuzzy Navel.
You didn't win the last one.
Did you win the last one? There was only two of those, and I remember us declaring a victor. What was your drink?
It's like
An AMF.
Without
I
blue.
remember. I picked pineapple meal. No, I won. Mine was better.
Fuck you. Oh, I want to be hydrated in the desert. Fuzzy Navel.
Oh, god damn it! I got nothing to say to you. Luckily, there's a transmission coming in on the radio. It says that the Norwegian Outpost needs some fucking help.
Makes me want to have a mouthful of crackers and go, dead air! Dead air!
You run the fucking podcast. Trying here. Not only am I trying to work off of the script, I gotta fucking juggle you two animals.
I'm being quiet.
I'm invited.
You're encouraging it.
You did like the fuzzy.
It's all my fault.
Rank one.
So here at the Norwegian Outpost, we are going to talk about the behind the scenes, and I hope you are fucking in it to win it, folks, because I've never seen, in all my time of looking up diseases that I thought I had, more fucking verbiage on the goddamn internet than the Wikipedia page for The Thing. So we are going to start in production, and we're just going to dive on in.
Yeah, baby.
Development. Development of the film began in the mid-1970s when David Foster and fellow producer Lawrence Terman suggested to Universal Pictures an adaptation of the 1938 John W. Campbell novella Who Goes There. It had been loosely adapted once before in Howard Hawks and Christian Nebe's 1951 The Thing from Another World. But Foster and Terman wanted to develop a project that stuck more closely to the source material. Screenwriters Hal Barwood and Matthew Robbins held the rights to make an adaptation, but passed on the opportunity to make a new film. So Universal obtained the rights from them. In 1976, Wilbur Stark had purchased the remake rights to 23 RKO Pictures films, including The Thing from Another World and 3 Wall Street financial, including The Thing from Another World, from 3 Wall Street financiers who did not know what to do with them, in exchange for a return when the films were produced. I think I fucked that up, but we'll keep on moving on.
The financiers gave it to them in exchange for a return when the film was produced.
Gotcha. Universal in turn acquired the rights to remake the film from Stark, resulting in him being given an executive producer credit on all print advertisements, posters, television commercials, and studio press material.
Imagine wanting to be famous that badly.
Yeah.
Let's put my name on stuff.
Please!
Yeah.
I'll give you money. John Carpenter was first approached about the project in 1976 by co-producer and friend Stuart Cohen, but Carpenter was mainly an independent film director, so Universal chose Texas Chainsaw Massacre director Tobe Hooper, as they had already had him under contract. The producers were ultimately unhappy with Hooper and his writing partner Kim Henkel's concept. After several more failed pitches from different writers and attempts to bring on other directors such as John Landis of An American Werewolf in London fame, the project was put on hold. Even so, the success of Ridley Scott's 1979 science fiction horror film Alien helped revitalize the project, at which point Carpenter became loosely attached following his success with his influential slasher film Halloween. Carpenter was reluctant to join the project, for he thought Hawks' adaptation would be difficult to surpass, although he considered the film's monster to be unnotable. Cohen suggested that he read the original novella. Carpenter found the creepiness of the imitations conducted by the creature and the questions it raised interesting. He drew parallels between the novel and Agatha Christie's mystery novel, and then there were none, and noted that the story of Who Goes There was timely for him, meaning he could make it true to his day as Hawks had in his time. Carpenter, a fan of Hawks' adaptation, paid homage to it in Halloween, and he watched The Thing from Another World several times for his inspiration before filming began. Carpenter and cinematographer Dean Cundy first worked together on Halloween, and The Thing was their first big-budget project for a major film studio. After securing the writer and crew, the film was stalled again when Carpenter nearly quit, believing that a passion project of his El Diablo, 1990, was on the verge of being made by EMI Films. The producers discussed various replacements, including Walter Hill, Sam Peckinpah, and Michael Ritchie. But the development of El Diablo was not as imminent as Carpenter believed, and he remained with The Thing. Universal initially set a budget of $10 million with $200,000 for creature effects, which at the time was more than the studio had ever allocated to a monster movie. Filming was scheduled to be completed within 98 days. Seems like
So it's a long shoot.
That is a very long shoot.
Plenty of time to shoot a movie.
Yeah. Universal's production studios estimated that it would require at least $17 million before marketing and other costs. As the plan involved more set construction, including external sets and a large set piece for the original scripted Death of Bennings, which was estimated to cost $1.5 million alone. As storyboarding and designs were finalized, the crew employed under Rob Bottin, the special makeup effects designer.
You skipped the line there.
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys.
The crew estimated
they would need at least $750,000 for creature effects, a figure Universal executives agreed to after seeing a number of workers employed under Rob Bottin, the special makeup effects designer. Sorry about that, gang. Larry Franco was responsible for making the budget work for the film. He cut the filming schedule by a third, eliminated the exterior sets for on-site shooting, and removed Benning's more extravagant death. I would really like to see what that looked like. Cohen suggested reusing the destroyed American camp as their ruined Norwegian camp, saving a further $250,000. Genius! When filming began in August, The Thing had a budget of $11.4 million, and indirect costs brought it to $14 million. The effects budget ran over, eventually totaling $1.5 million, forcing the elimination of some scenes, including Null's confrontation with the creature dubbed the Box Thing.
Damn.
By the end of production, Carpenter had to make a personal appeal to executive Ned Tannen for $100,000 to complete a simplified version of the Blair Thing. The final cost was $12.4 million, and the overhead cost brought it to $15 million.
Damn.
Thoughts?
I mean, I think it's super interesting that a lot of stuff was cut and they didn't make sets they wanted to make. Like watching that movie, you'd never think.
I was gonna say, all of that. I'm like, this feels like a movie that, like, from start to finish, you're like, yeah, this is the movie they wanted to make.
It does. It does. You would never imagine they didn't have everything that they needed or wanted.
I want to see
make
those cut scenes.
I mean, me too. Shit.
What is the Box Thing? What is the
That's
Box
what I'm
Thing?
saying.
That Knowles confronted?
Thing box?
Yeah, because that's where because Knowles goes off to the end of the picture, and we don't see what happens to him. It's just assumed that he gets assimilated.
That's
right.
That's right. He just kind of disappears. He doesn't have a death scene.
So whatever that was, it just was something that was expensive and got cut. What a fucking bummer.
Yeah. Would really like to know what Benning's
death scene
look like.
Also, I had no idea that at one point Tobe Hooper had been attached to this film.
Yeah, I don't think I remember hearing that either.
Yeah. Hooper is, famous for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even technically directed Poltergeist. I'd have been interested to see the alternative universe version of whatever he did with the movie.
I think Tobe Hooper is a really good director, just never given the right opportunities. I think he's a director that was just kind of kept in low budget horror when I think he really had the skills to do some bigger and greater things. That being said, Tobe Hooper has a number of really fun horror films. Eaten Alive is a fun little kind of like backwoods, like crazy hotel owner has an alligator that he feeds people to.
Wow.
It's got Robert Englund in it. Right before he becomes Freddy Krueger. He's got a one that's like about space vampires called Life Force. Definitely worth checking out. Obviously, he directed Poltergeist, but Poltergeist is a Steven Spielberg film, you know.
Be careful who on the internet hears you say that.
But I mean,
some people real mad.
Yeah,
I know you're right.
At the end of the day, like, there's a big difference in directing a picture and being there in the creative process, the writing process, being there during the directing process, and the editing process, having final cut,
scoring the movie.
Yeah, you know, which Toby Hooper did not have final cut on that picture. So, anyways, I digress.
Different conversation.
Yes. Thank you for tuning into the Jony Horror Podcast. And our coverage of Poltergeist.
My bad, guys.
But yeah, that's very fascinating to me. And think about this. Think about the fact that John Carpenter had to go and like essentially beg for an extra
I need a little money
$100,000, which to a movie studio is probably like me giving my kid $5 to go buy a popsicle.
Very much so.
I have to plead that case.
And the fact that this movie was made for $15 million. That's nothing. That is fucking nothing. Even at that time, that's nothing, man.
I mean, it's
mid-80s,
that would have technically been a mid-budget movie, right?
Like,
but that's not like big budget blockbuster.
No, that's borderline low budget. Like, I mean, that we really are like talking about like a fucking like B movie.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but it's so interesting because this really is sort of like an elevated B movie.
Yeah.
And it's like some of the best movies are that. You know what I mean? Like, on John Carpenter, like Halloween is an elevated B movie. Like Alien is an elevated B movie. Like
Jurassic
these are B movies.
Park
Jurassic Park is an elevated B movie. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I fascinating. That's all very, very interesting to me. All right, gentlemen, either one of you want to go for it.
Brian. Writing?
You're locked and loaded. I see. Go for it.
Several writers developed drafts for The Thing before Carpenter became involved, including Logan's Run, writer William F. Nolan, novelist David Wilst, and Hooper and Henkel, whose draft was set at least partially underwater. And which Cohen described as a Moby Dick-like story in which the captain did battle with a large, non-shape-shifting creature. As Carpenter said in a 2014 interview, they were just trying to make it work. The writers left before Carpenter joined the project. He said the scripts were awful as they changed the story into something it was not and ignored the chameleon-like aspect of The Thing. Carpenter did not want to write the project himself, after recently completing work on Escape from New York, not LA, and having struggled to complete a screenplay for The Philadelphia Experiment. He was weary of taking on writing duties, preferring to let someone else do it. Once Carpenter was confirmed as a director, several writers were asked to script The Thing, including Richard Matheson, Nigel Neal, and Derek Washburn.
Okay, so you have two big names right there. Wow. Richard Matheson, Nigel Neal. Richard Matheson, who obviously one of the greatest, novelists, and also did incredible short stories. Worked on The Twilight Zone. Nigel Neal, who did it is on the tip of my fucking tongue, and it is bothersome. Oh God, here I am. There we go. Just hear fucking Brian chewing Quartermass. There we go. Which Spielberg, or not Spielberg. Carpenter was a big fan of the Quartermass series, and I believe he used that as a springboard for some of his other stuff. But Nigel Neal wrote did the first draft of Halloween 3, which us three discussed before. Yeah. So those are two really big names.
Matheson was a superstar. I mean,
he is wrote probably my favorite short story I've ever read, A Sound of Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever read that. Great. They made a movie of it, which I never saw, but I don't think I ever needed to see it because the short story is perfect. Essentially, they figure out a way to do time travel, and they send like really, really rich people back to hunt dinosaurs, basically. But they have a very like narrow path in which they can walk. They tread it out because like if they stray away from the path, step on a blade of grass, you have a butterfly effect, changes everything. This whole story is great. It follows this one hunter who accidentally steps off the path, and the ending of the story is basically they go back to regular time, and he's trying to understand what people say, and he's trying to read stuff, and it's all
that's awesome.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
But Richard Matheson also wrote the story Duel that Steven Spielberg his TV movie that his first
feature length film.
Yeah, and it was made for TV,
Mm-hmm.
but he makes Sugarland Express after that, and then Jaws. But Duel is really good. If you guys have never seen Duel, I recommend that movie highly. Sorry, Brian. Jump back in, buddy. Go for it.
Bill Lancaster initially met with Turman, Foster, and Cohen in 1977, but he was given the impression that they wanted to closely replicate The Thing from Another World, and he did not want to remake the film. In August 1979, Lancaster was contacted again. By this time, he had read the original Who Goes There novella, and Carpenter had become involved in the project. Lancaster was hired to write the script after describing his vision for the film and his intention to stick closely to the original story to Carpenter, who was a fan of Lancaster's work on The Bad News Bears, 76. Lancaster conceived several key scenes in the film, including the Norris Thing biting Dr. Copper, and the use of blood tests to identify the Thing, which Carpenter cited as the reason he wanted to work on the film. Lancaster said he found some difficulty in translating Who Goes There to film, as it features very little action. He also made some significant changes to the story, such as reducing the number of characters from 37 to 12.
Jesus Christ.
Lancaster said that 37 was excessive and would be difficult for audiences to follow, leaving little screen time for characterization. He also opted to alter the story's structure, choosing to open his in the middle of the action instead of using a flashback as in the novella. Several characters were modernized for contemporary audiences. McCready, originally a meteorologist, became a tough loner described in the script as 35, helicopter pilot, likes chess, hates the cold, the pay is good. Lancaster aimed to create an ensemble piece where one person emerged as the hero instead of having a Doc Savage type hero from the start.
Doc Savage is like an old school pulp hero.
Like
the kind of guy that like Indiana Jones is based on.
Okay, got it.
Your standard like 1950s slick back hair, like the minute the picture starts,
you know
like
who the
you
hero
know
is.
the guy, you know.
37.
Fuck that, dude. Can you imagine trying to read that?
I'm actually like I've always wanted to read this book, and
I'm definitely gonna read it now.
And just that right there gives me pause. I'm like, what the? You're telling me I have to know about 37 people in a novella?
I was gonna say you can't even see them. You have to like memorize them based on shit they say.
Like that is like bordering on a short story. That's how many people we have to deal with.
Lancaster wrote 30 to 40 pages, but struggled with the film's second act, and it took him several months to complete the script. After it was finished, Lancaster and Carpenter spent a weekend in Northern California refining the script, each having different takes on how a character should sound and comparing their ideas for scenes. Lancaster's script opted to keep the creature largely concealed throughout the film, and it was Botten who convinced Carpenter to make it more visible to have a greater impact on the audience. Lancaster's original ending had both McCready and Childs turn into the Thing. In the spring, the characters are rescued by a helicopter, greeting their saviors with, "Hey, which way to a hot meal?" Carpenter thought this ending was too shallow. In total, Lancaster completed 4 drafts of the screenplay. The novella concludes with the humans clearly victorious, but concerned that birds they see flying toward the mainland had been infected by the thing. Carpenter opted to end the film with the survivors slowly freezing to death to save humanity from infection, believing this is to be the ultimate heroic act. Lancaster wrote this ending, which eschews a Twilight Zone style twist or the destruction of the monster, as he wanted to instead have an ambiguous moment between the pair of trust and mistrust, fear and relief.
I would say that
shit.
I like I would never change the ending, but the idea of the birds.
Dude,
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
That's a really
excellent.
good ending.
Yeah.
That's
I think
really
Carpenter's
good.
ending is obviously like pretty ideal, but also you are very much like a Carpenter-esque kind of storyteller. Like that's kind of ending you would have come up with is they all freeze to death.
Yeah, I mean, well, like
Yeah, that's the Carpenter.
there is a, and again, we can talk. I mean, even on the commentary, they don't give, neither Carpenter nor Kurt Russell gives a solid answer about who, if someone is or is not the thing. But in a very fantastical film, that ending is the most realistic part, because that's just what would happen.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, in that scenario, there's nothing to do. There's no grand scheme. There's nothing like that. You would just freeze and die. That being said, like both those endings that they have, like I like the idea of both of them being the thing. That's maybe a little bit more leans into what we get a little bit more later in 80s horror. Just that kind of like over the top, you know, very very much nihilistic ending. This is a nihilistic ending to be sure, but the fact that, you know, we lose essentially, that's fun. But the birds one, just the idea of a shot of just birds flying away towards humanity. That's how the book. That
like you just have like your characters kind of all looking at each other, kind of nervously, like fuck.
What was that, bro?
That's how the book ends.
Is that?
The novella concludes with the humans clearly victorious, but concerned that birds they see flying toward the mainland may have been infected.
Yeah, see, that's a fantastic ending right there.
That's
great.
Gnarly.
Yeah.
Lancaster's original ending had MacReady and Childs both turn into the thing, and in the spring the characters are rescued by helicopter, greeting their saviors with, "Hey, which way to a hot meal?"
I mean, it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark.
Ominous.
I mean, all the endings here that we have, none of them are happy, you know?
Damn.
All right. So, we have casting next. And as opposed to reading all of this, I don't know. Do you guys want to read all of this?
We don't have to read all
or
of it.
do you just want to kind of take each character and discuss? I mean, it's up to you. If I could do a poll for the audience to decide right now, I would. But I'm gonna opt to let's just talk about each character a little bit.
Okay.
And you know what? No, because then this will keep us more on track. I think this will at the end of the day. So, Kaylin, why don't you take casting?
I'll see what I can do. Can't really read, but you know. Alright, let's see here. Kurt Russell was involved in production before being cast, helping Carpenter develop his ideas. Russell was the last actor to be cast in June 1981, by which point second unit filming was starting in Janoah, Alaska. Carpenter had worked with Russell twice before, but wanted to keep his options open. Discussions with the studio involved using actors Christopher Walken, Jeff Bridges, or Nick Nolte.
Okay. What about any of them? Do we think any of them work?
One.
Okay. Go ahead. Let's finish that.
Okay, who were either unavailable or declined, and Sam Shepard, who showed interest but was never pursued.
What about Tom Atkins?
Tom Atkins would have been fine. I don't think he would have done as well as Russell. I'm not familiar with Jack Thompson.
Yeah, me neither. So, Brian, if you don't remember, Tom Atkins is the lead in Halloween 3.
Ooh, all right.
I don't think Christopher Walken works.
Nope.
I think the strongest contender in all of this, Jeff Bridges. Maybe
Jeff Bridges would have killed it.
I think Jeff Bridges is really
Jeff
good.
Bridges would have done well.
My
thing, so similar.
My thing with Jeff Bridges is that I love Jeff Bridges, but Jeff Bridges, and granted, I haven't seen every Jeff Bridges movie, but there is a God, what's the word? A vulnerability to him in almost every performance that I've ever seen him in that McCready does not display.
But like, okay, so it would have been a different take on the character, but I think that would have been great.
Yeah. No, and I mean, again,
True.
that's why I'm saying, like, Jeff Bridges in this role, and I mean, if you've ever seen, I think it's 1976, I think that's the year, but the 1970s King Kong, he plays the Adrian Brody-esque, same haircut, same beard, like, plays that hero very, very well. He would be my first choice. And oddly enough, even more weird is that Jeff Bridges in that King Kong, I was watching it and I was going, who the fuck does this son of a bitch look like? He looks like Kurt Russell's and Goldie Hawn's son.
Wyatt Russell.
Wyatt Russell.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Like, to a T.
That's awesome.
So, I think that's a solid buy. I agree. The character's different. But that is betrayal that I'd be like, if there's an alternate cut out somewhere out there with Jeff Bridges, I'd watch the hell out of that.
Yeah.
I think Nick Nolte is interesting. I think Nick Nolte is a little too intense. Like, he'd be better as the child's role.
He would be good as a child's role.
Oh, yeah.
I think Nick Nolte would be good in either one, personally.
Nick Nolte's really fucking
He's
good.
really good.
Really, Nick Nolte is just, and Tom Atkins, I like better as a supporting character.
Yeah.
Rather, I think Tom Atkins is good as a Gary or or maybe one of the scientists or something like that, the doc or something like that.
I agree.
But yeah, that Jeff Bridges turn, that's very interesting.
Yeah, that's the only one I could imagine.
Christopher Walken, that's a fun one. I mean,
that's Christopher Walken, but he's not
weird.
No, he's not exactly a one size fits all actor. You know what I mean? Like, he can't just do any role. I think very highly of him. But
have you seen The Dead Zone?
Yeah.
Oh man,
of course I've seen The Dead Zone. Yeah,
that's fucking good.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's Carpenter, right?
That is Cronenberg.
Cronenberg. There it is.
Yeah.
My bad.
Guys. I mean, if you think about it, like it's a full, like, if you think about the character in that, it's 100% Cronenberg. So.
Right. No, that's true.
Sorry, he's just watching it. Poor Bryce is like, I don't know what they're talking
he's
about.
Like, The Dead Zone.
We're nerding out.
Great.
Brian, take it away, buddy.
Oh, I'm going.
Sorry. I thought I apologize.
All right,
take it away.
Tom Atkins and Jack Russell were strong early and late contenders for the role of McGrady, but the decision was made to go with Russell. In part, Carpenter cited the practicality of choosing someone he had found reliable before and who would not balk at the difficult filming conditions. That's fair. Mm-hmm. It took Russell about a year to grow his hair and beard for the role.
Damn.
At various points, the producers met with Brian Dennehy, Chris Christopherson, John Hurd, Ed Harris, Tom Berenger, Jack Thompson, Scott Glenn, Fred Ward, Peter Coyote, Tom Atkins, and Tim McIntyre. Some passed on the idea of starring in a monster film, while Dennehy became the choice to play Copper. Each actor was paid $50,000, but after the more established Russell was cast, his salary was increased to $400,000, which in 1981 money is not too shabby. Jeffrey Holder, Carl Weathers, and Bernie Casey were considered for the role of Childs. Man, I love Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers.
That would not be terrible. And Carpenter also looked at Isaac Hayes, having worked with him on Escape from New York. Ernie Hudson was the front runner and was almost cast until they met with Keith David. That's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ernie Hudson, I don't think... maybe I just, maybe it's him just playing such a easygoing guy in Ghostbusters that I'm like,
it's such an iconic role too. Like we all think of him in that one specific role.
Yeah, shake.
I love Carl Weathers. I also like Ernie Hudson. I think Keith David was the right guy for that role.
Yeah. Isaac Hayes is interesting too, but Isaac Hayes is someone that like you're like, all right, Kurt Russell, move over. Isaac Hayes has this,
Right.
There's a fine line to walk.
Carl Weathers rules, man.
I love that guy.
Fucking walks in with his boxing gloves.
Going, I want you, Joe. I want you. Oh, man. Okay.
I mean, he would go on to star in his own iconic Alien film, so...
Yeah, he certainly would. Don't run.
You son of a bitch!
You know what I mean? I'm here. All right.
God.
Okay. The Thing was David's first significant film role, and coming from a theater background, he had to learn on set how to hold himself back and not show every emotion his character was feeling, with guidance from Richard Macer and Donald Moffat in particular. Is that Macer? Is that how you say that?
I was saying Macer.
Macer. Okay, we'll go with Macer. Macer and David discussed their characters in rehearsals and decided that they would not like each other. For Blair, the team chose the then unknown Wilford Brimley, as they wanted an everyman whose absence would not be questioned by the audience until the appropriate time. The intent with the character was to have him become infected early in the film, but off-screen, so that his status would be unknown to the audience, concealing his intentions. Carpenter wanted to cast Donald Pleasance, but it was decided that he was too recognizable to accommodate the role.
Smart.
T.K. Carter was cast as Knowles, but comedian Franklin Ayahe also came in to read for the role. Instead, he delivered a lengthy speech about the character being a stereotype, after which the meeting ended. Yikes. Alrighty. No comment on that. Botin lobbied hard. Bottin, I'm sorry. Bottin lobbied hard to play Palmer, but it was deemed impossible.
I was gonna say that guy would have no fucking time.
Right, but it was deemed impossible for him to do so alongside his existing duties. As the character has some comedic moments, Universal brought in comedians Jay Leno,
wow,
Gary Shandling,
fucking kidding,
and Charles Fleischer. I mean, Jesus Christ. God, that would have been a bad
disaster.
Yeah, among others, but opted to go with actor David Clennon, who is better suited to play the dramatic elements.
Thank you.
Clennon had read for the Bennings character, but he preferred the option of playing Palmer's blue-collar stoner to a white-collar science man. Powers Booth, Lee Van Cleef, Jerry Orbach, and Kevin Conway were considered for the role of Gary, and Richard Mulligan was considered when the production experimented with the idea of making the character closer to McGrady in age. Macer also read for Gary, but he asked to play Clark instead, as he liked the character's dialogue and was also a fan of dogs. That's my dog.
There you go.
All right. Macer worked daily with the wolf dog Jed and his handler Clint Rowe during rehearsals, as Rowe was familiarizing Jed with the sounds and smells of people. This helped Macer's and Jed's performances on screen, as the dog would stand next to him without looking for his handler. Macer described his character as one uninterested in people but who loves working with dogs. He went to a survivalist store and bought a flip knife for his character and used it in a confrontation with David's character. Macer turned down a role in E.T. the Extraterrestrial to play Clark.
Wow. That's
pretty wild. William Daniels and Dennehy were both interested in playing Dr. Copper, and it was a last-second decision by Carpenter to go with Richard Dysart. In early drafts, Windows was called Sanchez and later Sanders. The name Windows came when the actor for the role, Thomas Waits, was in costume fitting, tried a large pair of dark sunglasses. which character was in the film. Russell described the all-male story as interesting since the men had no one to posture for without women. Anita Dance served as casting director. Okay, what's that even mean? He's like, we definitely weren't getting gay. None of that.
No. It's him saying that when guys get together, there is posturing. There's like, hey, what do I have to do to get this girl's attention? Even if you're doing it subconsciously, we're doing it. There's a pretty girl there. Whether it's one guy has to be tough, one guy has to be funny, one guy has to be nice. And when there's no women there, dudes are just dudes. They're just doing their thing. They're not thinking about,
interesting.
I gotta, procreate. I gotta spread my seed and all that. So, and I imagine that, like, there's no women in this film. I think on set there might have been one or two, like, women in total.
Wow.
But this is an all-male cast. There's the voice. There's one voice of a woman. Adrienne Barbeau, who is a Carpenter regular. You can see her in The Fog. You can see her in Escape from New York. She shows up in Creepshow. She's great, but she is the voice of the chess wizard. So, yeah.
There you go.
Damn, I love that.
That's
cool. I like those little things.
Okay. Damn. I mean, anything you guys want to say about the characters at all? Anything specific? I know we covered a lot. There's a lot of characters. I think I did not know that Wilford Brimley was unknown up to this point. It seems like he has a confidence and an assuredness about him that speaks to a lifetime of being on screen. It's very interesting. I do maintain that, like, it's a subtle thing, but I do think that when he takes the pencil and you see that pencil later on too, when he's doing his notes and stuff like that.
Completely.
When he's seeing how long it's going to take for the
eraser.
The thing to spread. It's the eraser.
That was what I saw, but I didn't notice the scene.
Yeah, like he does just when he's talking, he like taps it to his mouth. If there was any contact between this and that, a particle could have gotten in and absorbed it.
That's it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah. all it would take. I like that.
A biologist would never like touch an alien and then touch their mouth. Like that would never fucking happen.
Yeah, no. There's just so much of I mean, there's a lot of that with all those characters. I'm like, McCready being like, "Hey Doc, get me a shovel." I'm like, "We're gonna bring this thing back on the helicopter."
Yeah,
never would have done that.
Right?
I would never get close to that thing ever in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, they go look at it. It's all frozen and burnt up, and they're like, "Looks like there's almost a man in there."
Yeah,
and they're like,
"Let's take it with us.
Go find me a shovel. We're gonna put it in this tiny little room with us. We're gonna fly at 8 miles.
We're gonna fuck with it."
And like,
there are
some
things that they're
80s shit.
That's
it is. It's very
and I mean, even the part where like I thought about it and I don't know, maybe because I just don't know things, but there's a part where they go check on Blair and he's in the shed and like Blair and McCready are talking like this close, face to face, and Blair is breathing in his face. In my mind, I'm going, would there be like small enough particles in his breath, like coming out of his throat that could infect somebody? Maybe it doesn't work like that, but
it could.
Theoretically, like I thought about that and I was like, that's terrifying.
That's how. I mean,
that's how sickness is
microbes
spread.
work that way. Yeah.
Fully discounting the noose hanging in between them.
I fucking love that. I love that no one ever acknowledges it. It's just there.
It's a totally normal thing to have.
He looks at him and it's like on his shoulder practically.
Hey, I'm fine now. I just want to come back inside. If there was anything wrong with me, I'm fine now.
He's like pushing it out of his face, but he's like, I just want to come in.
No, listen to me.
He was like, we'll see. It's like, no, listen.
Just like signs in the background that says, "I want to kill myself." It's like drawings of
It's
like him
in
hanging. I am it.
I want to come inside.
Don't check the basement.
I'm cold. Just putting it around his head. It's chilly out here.
Oh, all right. Here we go. We got some stuff for filming. Here we go. The thing was storyboarded extensively. Makes sense. By Mike Plug and Mentor Hubner. What a name, man.
I know.
Before filming began, their work was so detailed that many of the film shots replicate the image layout completely. That's really cool. Dean Gundy, the cinematographer, pushed for the use of anamorphic format aspect ratio, believing it would allow for placing several actors in an environment and making use of scenic vistas available, while still creating a sense of confinement within the image. God, the way people's fucking minds work is genius to me. It also enabled the use of negative space around the actors to imply that something was lurking just off screen. What the fuck? Principal photography began on August 24th, 1981 in, how do we say that was pronounced? Genoa, Alaska?
Yeah.
Filming lasted about 12 weeks. Jesus Christ. Carpenter insisted on 2 weeks of rehearsals before filming as he wanted to see how scenes would play out. Really, really smart. This was unusual at the time because of the expense involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not, I mean, you don't really get rehearsals a lot of times on movies. That's kind of unheard of. I can think of like 5 movies offhand that people did that before filming. Filming then moved to the Universal lot where the outside heat was 100 degrees. The internal sets were climate controlled to 28 degrees Fahrenheit to facilitate their work. The team considered building sets inside an existing refrigerated structure, but were unable to find one large enough. Instead, they collected as many portable air conditioners as they could, closed off the stage, and used humidifiers and misters to add moisture in the air. After watching a roughly assembled cut of filming to date, Carpenter was unhappy with the film as it seemed to feature too many scenes of men standing around talking. He rewrote some already completed scenes to take place outdoors to be shot on location when principal photography moved to Stewart, British Columbia. Carpenter was determined to use authentic locations instead of studio sets, and his success on Halloween in the Fog gave him credibility to take on a much bigger budgeted production of the thing. A film scout located an area just outside Stewart along the Canadian coast, which offered the project both ease of access and scenic value during the day. On December 2nd, 1981, roughly 100 American and Canadian crew members moved to the area to begin filming. During the journey there, the crew bus slid in the snow towards an unproductive edge of the nearly sending it down 500-foot embankment.
Christ.
Yeah, fuck that. Some of the crew stayed in a small mining... Oh, wow, we just cut. That was it? That was the end of the story? Fuck. Everyone almost died at the end. The crew stayed in a small mining town during filming, while others lived on residential barges on the Portland Canal. They would make the 27-mile drive up a small winding road to the filming location in Alaska where the exterior outpost sets were built. Damn. The sets had been built in Alaska during the summer atop a rocky area overlooking a glacier in preparation for the snowfall to cover them. That's just the cool foresight, you know? They were used both for interior and exterior filming, meaning they could not be heated above freezing inside to ensure that the snow was always on the roof. Outside, the temperature was so low that the camera lenses would freeze and break.
That's fucking awesome.
Damn.
The crew would leave the cameras in freezing temperatures as the crew had to leave the cameras in freezing temperatures as keeping them inside would, in the warmth, result in a foggy lens that took hours to clear. Filming, greatly dependent on the weather, took 3 weeks to complete, the heavy snow making it impossible to film on some days. Reading the explosives necessary to destroy the set in the film's finale required 8 hours. Jesus. Here we go, Brian. Keith David broke his hand in a car accident the day before he was to begin shooting. David attended filming the next day, but when Carpenter and Franco saw his swollen hand, they sent him to the hospital where it was punctured with 2 pins. He returned wearing a surgical glove beneath a black glove that was painted to resemble his complexion. His left hand is not seen for the first half of the film. Carpenter filmed the Norwegian camp scenes at the end using the damaged American base to stand in for the charred Norwegian camp.
Genius.
So smart. The explosive destruction of the base required the camera assistants to stand inside the set with explosives, which were activated remotely. Wait, what? The explosive destruction of the base required the camera assistants to stand inside the set with the explosives, which were activated
remotely.
Did they kill people?
Kill him. John Carpenter, you crazy.
Next sentence. Oh my god.
He's like, I need you guys to be dedicated to this movie.
Hey, you guys know, you almost fell off a cliff.
We're gonna blow this up.
We're gonna blow you
remotely.
We're gonna Final Destination this shit. You were supposed to die there. Jesus Christ. Oh my god, what the shit. The assistants then had to run to a safe distance while 7 cameras captured the base destruction. God, John Carpenter just trying to blow people up in this movie. Filmed with a heavy use of special effects was rare. Filmed when heavy use of special effects was rare, the actors had to adapt to having John Carpenter describe to them what their characters were looking at, as the effects would not be added until post-production. Some of the puppets used to create the impression of what was happening in the scene, but in other cases the cast would be looking at a wall and an object marked with an X. Art director John J. Lloyd oversaw the design and construction of all the sets, as there were no existing locations used in the film. Cundy suggested that all the sets should have ceilings and pipes seen on camera to make the spaces seem more claustrophobic.
Jesus.
Fucking hey!
Dude, what the hell? We're gonna activate these bombs remotely.
What if they
tripped?
tripped?
You guys need to sit there and then run.
I hope you
don't trip.
If you trip, you'll blow up.
Do you think any of them just wrote letters to their loved ones just in case?
I'm a
Dear Maribeth
assistant.
I
want to be a filmmaker.
I'm barely getting paid above minimum wage.
I'm going to die a camera assistant.
John might blow my fucking legs off, but it's in the name of film.
We're making a good movie, goddamn.
Also, if you hear about the bus, we made it. Don't worry.
Yes, the bus happened.
What the fuck?
Take it away, Brian.
Post-production. Several scenes in the script were omitted from the film, sometimes because there was too much dialogue that slowed the pace and undermined the suspense. Carpenter blamed some of the issues on his directorial method, noting that several scenes appeared to be repeating events or information. Another scene featuring a snowmobile chase pursuing dogs was removed from the shooting script as it would have been too expensive to film. One scene present in the film, but not the script, features a monologue by McCready. Carpenter added this partially to establish what was happening in the story and because he wanted to highlight Russell's heroic character after taking over the camp. Carpenter said that Lancaster's experience writing ensemble pieces did not emphasize single characters. Since Halloween, several horror films had replicated many of the scare elements of that film, something Carpenter wanted to move away from for The Thing. He removed scenes from Lancaster's script that had been filmed, such as a body suddenly falling into view at the Norwegian camp, which he felt were too cliched. Approximately 3 minutes of film or of scenes were filmed from Lancaster's script that elaborated on the characters' backgrounds. A scene with MacReady absent-mindedly inflated a blow-up doll while watching the Norwegian tapes was filmed but not used in the finished film. The doll would later appear as a jump scare with Knowles. Other scenes featured expanded or alternate deaths for various characters. In the finished film, I can't remember. Fuchs! Charred bones are discovered, revealing he has died off screen, but an alternate take sees his corpse impaled on a wall with a shovel. Knowles was scripted to appear in the finale as a partly assimilated mass of tentacles, but in the film, he simply disappears. Carpenter struggled with a method of conveying to the audience what assimilation by the creature actually meant. Lancaster's original set piece of Benning's death had him pulled beneath a sheet of ice by the thing, before resurfacing in different areas in various stages of assimilation.
Oh, man.
The scene called for a set to be built on one of Universal's largest stages, with sophisticated hydraulics and dogs and flamethrowers, but it was deemed too costly to produce.
Damn.
A scene was filmed with Bennings being murdered by an unknown assailant, but it was felt that assimilation leading to his death was not explained enough. My bad. Short on time and with no interior sets remaining, a small set was built. Maloney was covered with KY jelly, orange dye, and rubber tentacles. Monster gloves for a different creature were repurposed to demonstrate partial assimilation.
I mean, all things considered, not half bad.
That's a great scene, and knowing that it's a duct tape scene is pretty cool.
Yeah. Right? No kidding. Carpenter filmed multiple endings for the thing, including a happier ending because editor Tom Ramsey thought that the bleak, nihilistic conclusion would not test well with audiences. In the alternate take, MacReady is rescued and given a blood test that proves he is not infected.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Carpenter said that stylistically this ending would have been cheesy. Editor Verna Fields was tasked with reworking the ending to add clarity and resolution. It was finally decided to create an entirely new scene which omitted the suspicion of Childs being infected by removing him completely, leaving MacReady alone. This new ending tested only slightly better with audiences than the original, and the production team agreed to the studio's request to use it. It was set to go to print for theaters when the producers, Carpenter and executive Helena Hacker, decided that the film was better left with ambiguity instead of nothing at all. Carpenter gave his approval to restore the ambiguous ending, but a scream was inserted over the Outpost explosion to posit the monster's death. Universal executive Sidney Sheinberg disliked the ending's nihilism, and according to Carpenter said, "Think about how the audience will react if we see the thing die with a giant orchestra playing." Carpenter later noted that both the original ending and the ending without Childs tested poorly with audiences, which he interpreted as the film simply not being heroic enough.
It's fair.
Yeah, man.
But I mean, that's kind of the point. Very rarely is humanity heroic. I think this is a very, very human story at the end of the day. So,
I mean, it's still pretty heroic too. Like,
yeah,
for what it is.
Yeah,
I'd say.
K-Dog, you want to take music?
I don't read music.
Music reads me.
Let's see. Ennio. Is that person
Ennio
Italian?
Morricone, yeah.
Morricone? Is it Morricone?
Yeah, I think it's Morricone.
Morricone, okay. Composed the film score as Carpenter wanted the thing to have a European musical approach. Morricone. Carpenter flew to Rome to speak with Morricone to convince him to take the job. By the time Morricone flew to Los Angeles to record the score, he had already developed a tape filled with an array of synthesizer music because he was unsure what type of score Carpenter wanted. Morricone wrote complete separate orchestral and synthesizer scores and a combined score, which he knew was Carpenter's preference. That's pretty cool. Carpenter picked a piece closely resembling his own scores that became the main theme used throughout the film. He also played the score from Escape from New York for Morricone as an example. Morricone made several more attempts, bringing the score closer to Carpenter's own style of music. In total, Morricone produced a score of approximately 1 hour that remained largely unused, but was later released as part of the film's soundtrack. Carpenter and his longtime collaborator, Alan Howarth, separately developed some synth-style pieces used in the film. In 2012, Morricone recalled, I've asked Carpenter, as he was preparing some electronic music with an assistant to edit on the film, why did you call me? If you want to do it on your own. He surprised me. He said, I got married to your music. This is why I've called you. Then when he showed me the film later when I wrote the music, we didn't exchange ideas. He ran away, nearly ashamed of showing it to me. I wrote the music on my own without his advice. Naturally, as I've become quite clever since 1982, I've written several scores relating to my life, and I had written one which was electronic music, and Carpenter took the electronic score. I was thinking as he was describing that, like, wouldn't you just say, dude, why don't you do this shit yourself if you want it to be just like your music?
Right.
Yeah.
Carpenter said, Morricone did all the orchestrations and recorded for me 20 minutes of music that I could use wherever I wished, but without seeing any footage. I cut his music into the film and realized that there were places, mostly scenes of tension, in which his music would not work. I secretly ran off and recorded a couple of days a few pieces to use. My pieces were very simple electronic pieces. It was almost tones. It was not really music at all, just background sounds. Something today you might even consider sound effects. Right.
Dude, what's trip?
Yeah, design, creature effects.
That's cool.
Okay, we're gonna jump past that because we're gonna discuss that in a separate bit ourselves, and we can kind of talk about that and jump back to it if we need to. We're gonna talk about the release here, okay? The lack of information about the film's special effects drew attention of film exhibitors in 1982. They wanted reassurance that the thing was a first-rate production capable of attracting audiences. Cohen and Foster, with a specially employed editor and Universal's archive music, put together a 20-minute showreel emphasizing action and suspense. They used available footage, including alternate and extended scenes not in the finished film, but avoid revealing special effects as much as possible. The reaction from the exclusively male exhibitors was generally positive, and Universal executive Robert Ramey told Cohen that the studio was counting on the thing's success as they expected E.T. the extraterrestrial to only apply to children. While finalizing the film, Universal sent Carpenter a demographic study showing the audience appeal of horror films had declined by 70% over the previous 6 months. Saying that is an exorbitant percentage. Jesus. Carpenter considered this a suggestion that he lower his expectations of the film's performance. After one market research screening, Carpenter queried the audience on their thoughts, and one audience member asked, well, what happened in the very end? Which one was the thing? When Carpenter responded that it was up to their imagination, the audience member responded, oh God, I hate that.
That's amazing.
After returning from a screening of E.T. the Extraterrestrial, the audience silence at the thing. After returning from a screening of E.T. the Extraterrestrial, the audience silence at the Thing trailer caused Foster remark, "We're dead." The response to public pre-screenings of the Thing resulted in the studio changing the somber black and white advertising approved by the producers to a colorful image of a person with a glowing face. The tagline was also changed from "Man is the warmest place to hide." written by Stephen Frankfurt, who wrote the Alien tagline, "In space, no one can hear you scream," to the ultimate in alien terror, trying to capitalize on the alien audience.
Lame.
Carpenter attempted to make a last-minute change to the film's title to "Who Goes There?" to no avail. The week before its release, Carpenter promoted the film with clips on Late Night with David Letterman. In 1981, horror magazine Fangoria held a contest encouraging readers to submit drawings of what the thing would look like. Winners were rewarded with a trip to Universal Studios. On its opening day, a special screening was held at Hollywood Pacific Theater, presided over Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, with free admission to those in costume as monsters. That sounds fucking cool!
I really like that back then Elvira was just treated like she was real.
Yeah.
Like she would just show up and stuff and it'd be like, Elvira's here, the Mistress of the Dark. And I'd be like, that's a character. And they'd be like, no, that's Elvira. She's real.
Yeah.
The old tagline was, "Man is the warmest place to hide."
Yeah,
that's
sick.
Fucking awesome.
I mean, to be fair, the ultimate alien terror is still fun, but it is nowhere near like it. Man is the warmest place to hide it. There's like almost like something like psychosexual about it. That, and I mean, I have a
sexual, huh?
it is this weird like what does that sound like? It sounds like someone's hiding inside your body.
Yeah,
like, that's just
exactly.
That's
That's crazy.
And it's what's the word? It's
ultimate in alien terror.
I can't think of it, but you know, when someone makes you feel uncomfortable because they're taking advantage of you, whatever that word for that is.
You mean like it's unnerving, or
some about like vulnerability, but I can't think of what the word is. But I mean, I have a sweatshirt upstairs that is like the Thing, like I forget what the display is, but like it has the title, and it has the Man is the Warmest Place to Hide.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I'll round it out with the box office here. The Thing was released in the United States on June 25th, 1982. During its opening weekend, the film earned this is fucking criminal. $3.1 million from 840 theaters, an average of $3,699 per theater, finishing at number 8 of the weekend behind supernatural horror film Poltergeist, $4.1 million, which was in its 4th week of release, and ahead of Megaforce, $2.3 million.
That classic film Megaforce.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
It dropped out of the top 10 grossing films after 3 weeks, and ended its run earning total of $19.6 million against a budget of $15 million.
Okay, so here they're saying it was not a box office failure, nor was it a hit. That's a box office failure.
Yeah.
$19.6 million on a $15 million budget means you lost money on that.
Yeah, you also got to take into account advertising.
Advertising and the fact that you don't take 100% of that take, you split it with exhibitors.
Yeah.
So they definitely lost money on that movie.
That is rough.
Ooh,
reception? Are we doing it?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, Lord.
Go on, B-Rye.
Ooh, let's scroll back up here.
Let's just talk briefly about this, because I feel like we've been reading a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Like, what? Like, knowing this film now, like, and we are in 1980s. We're not like...
I think it would just have shit stacked up against it, man. Like, they expected so much of E.T. to just be like this, like, little kids movie, which it wasn't. It was like a family fucking flick.
It was a
phenomenon.
Yeah, that was a massive film, yeah.
Which just immediately cast him in the shadow.
Mm.
Hard in the paint.
Like, how mad can you be,
though?
as
so different as movies.
Right.
Like, couldn't be more different.
Like, how mad can you be?
But it's just like
as Universal, where you're like,
they're killing it.
Yep.
E.T.
Yep.
This other like whatever is not. But E.T. You can't like be Like,
with how much they made, that was like a drop in the fucking bucket to them. They're like, well, you tried. Sorry, some people almost fucking died. You almost blew up like 500 people, but hey, whatever.
I feel like sometimes movies that do things differently are met with hostility, sometimes from audiences, sometimes from critics.
Yeah.
Like, it does happen sometimes, and you'll see sometimes people make up their mind to not like something.
Right.
Sometimes good movies slip through the cracks and don't get the love they deserve. It happens. Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, because there's other historical examples like this too, right? Like, wasn't Citizen Kane panned on release?
Oh yeah.
I mean, they miss. Like, sometimes people miss the mark and they go after movies that don't deserve it.
Another one. It's a Wonderful Life. That movie is fucking incredible. Yes.
You're crazy if you don't like that movie.
And it was I think it was panned upon.
It was panned, yeah. Because it was I mean, doing something different. It was being quirky, right? It was being a little bit weird, and
I mean, sometimes movies are just ahead of their time. I think The Thing is just barely ahead of its time.
Yeah.
If you take into account what happens in the 1980s with the AIDS epidemic, the idea of paranoia and not knowing who to trust, particularly when it's around like a group of men, like that hits like a fucking nerve, and it is at the height, like in the mid to late 1980s. We're just on the cusp of that. We're just on the beginning of that in 1982, you know? So, and that's not to say that that's what this film is about, by no means, but I think if this film comes out in 1989, there's a very different reception to it, you know? Sure. But let's talk about the critical response a little bit. Why don't you hit us with this, Brian? And then once we're done with this, we can we're gonna jump off of Wikipedia. But I must say, because I missed this in the beginning here, we really do need to give thanks to anyone who's contributed to the Wikipedia page and the IMDb page for The Thing, because we do zero research here at the Jony Horror Podcast, and we don't get paid for this, and we appreciate you. So, Brian, take it away.
Critical reception. The film received negative reviews on its release and hostility for its cynical, anti-authoritarian tone and graphic special effects.
Boo!
Some reviewers were dismissive of the film, calling it the quintessential moron movie of the 80s, or instant junk, and a wretched excess. God damn. Starlog's Alan Spencer called it a cold and sterile horror movie, attempting to crash in on the genre audience. Cash in on the genre audience against the optimism of E.T.
Like, how could they plan that? It came out 2 weeks afterwards. Like, there's no way that they could...
I'm sorry, real quick, dude. Can you finish that? The reassuring return of Star Trek II, the technical perfection of Tron, and the sheer integrity of Blade Runner. Alan Spencer, if you're out there, go fuck yourself. You're not a film critic. You're an idiot. That is not film criticism. Being like, well, I watched this movie, but then I watched these other movies.
Yeah, but I watched E.T., Star Trek II, Tron, and Blade Runner.
Right, it was different than these other movies, and I liked those more, so this is not good. That's not fucking film criticism, and if I seem a little bit triggered right now, it's because I still see this shit today. Where people will be like, this movie thinks it's good, but I saw this movie last week, and it's hard to say this is good when I saw this movie last week. You're not a fucking film critic. You suck at your fucking job.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, you're good, man.
My bad.
No apologies necessary.
Let
him have it.
I like it.
Yeah. Fuck you, Alan Spencer.
No, for real though.
Bitch. The plot was criticized.
Spencer's just like...
Good riddance. We don't need him.
I just hopped on the internet to see if there's one thing to keep me from killing myself.
And it's me like... Fuck you, you, Spencer.
The Jony Horror Podcast mentioned me. All right, I'll bite. It's been a long time. I'll go watch this.
The best part is that this poor guy listened to like 2 hours of podcasts to get to the point where we're like, we fucking hate you.
Just for Caleb to rip him a new ass.
He starts to get really excited. He's like, oh, this is my part. This is mentioning me right now.
I read about this.
Oh,
Next, the plot was criticized as boring
Wow.
and undermined by the special effects. The Los Angeles Times' Linda Gross said that the thing was bereft?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Bereft, despairing, and nihilistic. And lacking in feeling, meaning the characters' deaths did not matter. I think we're watching different movies.
No.
Spencer said it featured sloppy continuity, lacked pacing, and was devoid of warmth or humanity. They're in fucking Antarctica! David Anson of Newsweek felt the film confused the use of effects with creating suspense, and that it lacked drama by sacrificing everything at the altar of gore. The Chicago Reader's Dave Kerr considered the dialogue to be banal and banal and interchangeable, making the characters seem and sound alike. The Washington Post's Gary Arnold said it was a witty touch to open with the thing having already overcome the Norwegian base, defeating the type of trap seen in the 1951 version, while New York's David Denby lamented that the thing's threat is shown only externally, without focusing on what it is like for someone who thinks they have been taken over. Jesus.
Yeah, it's called fucking, like, leaving some mystery to the goddamn movie, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Roger Ebert considered the film to be scary, but offering nothing original beyond the special effects, while the New York Times' Vincent Canby said it was entertaining only if the viewer needed to see spider-legged heads and dog autopsies.
Can I throw out one more criticism at critics?
Please.
Rip them apart.
Saying offers nothing original is not a fair critique.
No.
It doesn't matter. Like, I could do a movie that's about, a robot traveling back in time trying to kill somebody that's like a slasher movie that's like similar to Terminator, and do it with my own spin, and I could make it a great fucking movie, and the fact that it's happened before wouldn't make it a less good movie. If it is, as long as something has its own flavor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's its own bent. It doesn't matter if it's happened. We've seen everything before. We've done every kind
I'm
of
just
movie
saying,
before.
You have 1989's Batman, and you have 2008's The Dark Knight. Those are still both very iconic movies, dealing in the same genre with the same character. And
well, it's just that what is it? You're offering nothing original beyond the special effects.
Thank you. Please continue.
Reviews of the actors' performances were generally positive, while criticizing the depictions of the characters they portrayed. Ebert said they lacked characterization, offering basic stereotypes that existed just to be killed, and Spencer called the characters bland, even though the characters do the best they can with the material.
I'm sorry, are we still listening to Alan Spencer talk right now?
What? Times Richard Scheichel, whatever, singled Russell out as the stalwart hero, where other characters were not as strongly or wittily characterized, and Variety said that Russell's heroic status was undercut by the suicidal attitude adopted toward the film's finale.
He was suicidal from the very beginning.
Yeah, that's called media literacy, Johnny. It's called knowing how to watch a fucking movie.
I love this. Other reviews criticized implausibilities such as the characters wandering off alone. Kerr did not like that the men did not band together against the thing, and several reviews noted a lack of camaraderie and romance, which Arnold said reduced any interest beyond the special effects.
Oh my god. You fucking dicks did not watch the same movie, did you?
Or they wanted it to be a different movie instead of watching it for what it was.
That's what I mean.
And that's bullshit.
They wanted the fucking
the romantic version of the thing where they band together and win.
I mean,
to
be fair, in the 1951 version, there's a woman in the base, and there, of course, it's 1950s. Of course, there's a heroic lead and a damsel in distress.
Right.
That is 30 years before. That is 30. There is a 30-year difference here.
Oh boy. The film's special effects were simultaneously lauded and lambasted for being technically brilliant but visually repulsive and excessive. Cinefantastique wrote that the thing may be the most unloved monster in movie history, but it's also the most incredible display of special effects makeup in at least a decade. I'll take it. Reviews called Botton's work genius, noting the designs were novel, unforgettable, colorfully horrific, and called him a master of the macabre.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Please.
We don't need to read any more about. We get the general idea, and we've already gone on too long talking about the behind the scenes. Yeah. And this is a perfect segue.
Let's do it.
And to talk about just how I'm feeling right now, listening to all these reviews and shit. Which is,
tell me about Spencer.
You've got to be fucking kidding. Brian, I interrupted you. You were talking about Rob Bottin. Everyone was kind of praising his special effects.
Yeah, they gave him some love, which was nice, finally.
They said that his special effects were probably the best that have been seen on the film in the past decade.
Right?
I would argue, with the exception of Jurassic Park, which I would declare is the height of cinema in general, that animatronic special effects are never as good in any other film as they are in The Thing.
Fuck yeah.
I think that this is the best that animatronics ever look. I think it says a lot that Rob Bottin worked the better part of a year of his life on this, nonstop, 7 days a week, slept in his shop and lived off the candy bars. Yeah. And was outside of his mind, and that he never does special effects to this degree again. You look at his career, nothing, it just goes from this to essentially nothing. The only person that I would say that there are two other people in the film industry that I would mention in the same sentence as Rob Bottin. And of course now the one major one is fucking escaping my brain because I'm drunk and I'm tired, so I am just so embarrassed. And it's Rick Baker. There we go. Thank you. Rick Baker, who was Rob Bottin's teacher essentially, and Rick Baker starts out working on The Howling, but then gets pulled to go do An American Werewolf in London. Rob Bottin takes over and does the special effects in The Howling, and if you ask horror fans what is the best werewolf transformation in the history of film, the two that are always brought up The Howling right next to each other are The Howling and American Werewolf in London. Rob Bottin goes on to do The Thing right after he does The Howling. Now you have Rick Baker, Rob Bottin, and Stan Winston. That is the history of animatronic special effects in film cinema. I don't think it gets better than those three guys. But whereas Rick Baker and Stan Winston go off to do bigger and better things, this is pretty much it for Rob Bottin. He does some middling stuff here and there, but he is essentially retired from the industry. I think
I don't blame him.
This has a big play in that.
Yeah.
I think this kind of ruins him more or less.
What an amount of work, Jesus Christ.
But I want to talk about the effects in this film, even though, if only for a little bit, because I do feel like we've been dragging on this episode and we should probably need to wrap it up sooner rather than later. What's your guys' pick for best effect in this movie?
Ooh. You want to go first?
Yeah, for me, it's hard to the whole scene with the spider head and all that good stuff. The initial reveal and the way the monster expands,
right?
And you're just like, it's so horrific, and I think. I actually had I want to see what my specific phrasing was here.
Yeah.
I said the head scene, aka the greatest horror set piece ever. And I mean, I kind of stand by that. Like, that's like one of the most amazing horror set pieces I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And it fucks you. We had already met the Thing before that. Like, we met the Thing in the dog scene.
Yeah.
But that scene is still has this revelatory flavor to it, because you're still just like, holy fuck. And the cosmic horror of it all is really awesome.
Yeah, it's
and it's to me this is the best VFX in any movie ever done.
Oh, it's so gnarly.
I think it's the best VFX ever done. I think it's the
so
best.
Gnarly.
It's the best science fiction horror VFX ever done. It's the best horror VFX ever done. It's the best science fiction VFX ever done. It's just the top. I mean, obviously, there's a conversation we had about Jurassic Park, but I think this is just fucking amazing. And
the argument is, it's the only argument that could be made in that is that we have a general idea of what dinosaurs look like.
Right.
And while it's not my argument for why I think the animatronics look better in Jurassic Park as opposed to what they do in Jaws, for instance, is, not only are we dealing with 20 years of advancement in technology, but we know what sharks look like. We know what sharks look like. We don't really know what dinosaurs look like, but we have a really good idea of what dinosaurs look like. Yeah. But that differentiate of, like, we see videos of sharks. We don't see videos of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Right.
But we see pictures of dinosaurs. We see dinosaurs' bones. We have a good idea what they look like. We have no idea what the fucking thing looks like. That's the point of the whole thing. Right. So the argument of, like,
whatever they want.
It can be whatever it wants, and it can look however it wants. We're not putting it up against a picture of, something that we see in a Natural History Museum and going, all right, we're going to compare and contrast. So, yeah, I mean, again, depending on what day you ask me, Jurassic Park or the Thing, but there's a really big fucking difference about, and Brian and I talked about this on our Razorback episode, where you had a very new director dealing with a monster movie, and they couldn't quite get the Razorback to look the way they wanted it to look.
Oh, right.
And you can feel that it's not, like, they're leaning towards a lot of Jaws aesthetics, like not showing it, doing point of view perspective and stuff like that, but a lot of stuff they really had to Jimmy Reagan, some of it, feel student film.
Forced.
And I told Brian, I was like, well, yeah, if you're Steven Spielberg and Sid Sheinberg is in your corner, the head of, Universal Studios is telling you, yeah, no, I got you. We're going to make this happen.
Right.
Like, make your picture. It's a very, very big difference than you just being a first-time filmmaker and having a low-budget thing, to do. And that being, to piggyback on that, being Stan Winston, working with Steven Spielberg on a big-budget picture at Universal Studios is very different than being Rob Bottin. Essentially, he has a crew, but I feel like that man, I don't know if anyone felt more alone on that picture than Rob Bottin did.
Yeah.
Hence why he stayed up and fucking lived off candy bars to, get it done and get it right.
And then bailed. Said, I'm done doing this. Yeah.
Exactly. He got it done. It was just fuck doing that again. Yep.
Brian, what do you got for your best effect?
The one that always just stuck with me so hard, and there's a lot of good ones, but the one was the fucking dog cage scene.
Yeah.
And specifically, the scene of its back, when everything's coming out of the back of it.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Just freaks me out. It gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Every time I see that scene, since I was a kid to today, in my 30s, I'm just like, fuck the way they shot that. It just like peels out and just starts shaking, splitting around like. And it like every other scene after that, even in the cage, like shit's going AWY and stuff. But that clip, always is just like ingrained. I'm just like, ugh, it gives me the fucking chills.
When the dog's head splits open too, right? And that's really the first time you see the thing. Like you kind of see it a split second before where the dog's jaws are like vibrating and it's got blood, but then its face fucking splits open. What?
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome, Stranger Things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Fuck out of here with that shit.
I think it's not necessarily like an all-out effect, but like just the design of the split face monster.
Oh yeah,
is probably my favorite in all of it.
Like that.
In just there's great pictures of Rob Bottin like right next to it as like looks out of his fucking mind.
It's a shocker.
And I don't know,
sleeping next to those fucking things.
To me, like
candy bars, is like I'm gonna finish this shit.
With the exception of the Norris head, either one of them, you have either the spider head or the fucking snake lizard head thing. With the exception of that, like the split face is like the iconic monster image that tends to be paired with the thing, and I just think it's the creepiest thing because so much of it is like you don't know how it got that way.
Where it's going, how it's going.
Yeah, like is it in the middle of being transformed? Is it two people being combined? Like what's going on with that? Like I think that for me is just like the coolest like effect. Even though again, like I said, it's nothing that's happening on screen. It's something that's just kind of like frozen in time. But it has always scared me. Do you guys have anything for the worst effect? I got something.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
This is the only bad thing that I can think of, and it makes me chuckle. And like I thought, Brian, you were leaning into this when you talked about how your dad was like laughing at this scene, but the blood test scene when Windows gets clamped.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad,
and his legs are kicking. If you go back and rewatch it, like you're like, that's the most puppet looking thing I've ever seen in my life, and it's charming to me. It's one of those things that it doesn't take me out of the movie.
Right.
I just like sit there and I just go, look at those little legs kicking.
They're doing it. They're doing it.
That's the only thing that I watched that I'm like, yeah, that we maybe that was the thing that they were like, oh yeah, we'll just fuck it. This will look fine.
It's funny because right after that scene when it spits him out, and we read about it where they said he was covered in KY jelly and all this shit. You can see it in that split second scene because it spits him to the wall and he hits the ground and kind of rolls.
Yeah,
and you can tell it's him like trying to like look dead, but he has so much shit on him. Yeah. They're just like, whoa, that's a lot of jelly. Yeah. That's how I imagined it today.
I thought that was the scene outside.
No, I think, Brian, the thing that they're referencing, they were talking about Bennings when he's
Bennings.
He first gets overtaken before he goes outside. Like, Windows walks in on him and he's being like...
Oh, right.
Yeah, they douse him in KY jelly. That being said, Windows is still covered in KY jelly.
I was going to say, they're doing lots of KY jelly, boys.
Yeah, different KY jelly scenes. Yes, you're right.
So all that shit they're doing that. We talked about the dog sequence when Clark walks up and he sees the thing and he doesn't know what it is. He runs back and they're like, "What's going on?" He says, "I don't know, but it's weird and it's pissed off."
Yeah.
In this particular part of the camp, I just want to ask you guys, this kind of is a little bit of a slight detour, it probably falls more in the camp of what you're talking about, but what's the best monster sequence as it plays out? I do feel that we probably all have I mean, not just the effects, but the sequence itself.
Oh.
I mean, my pick is the Norris sequence. You have multiple monsters. You have a chest opening up. You have a giant head like popping out and looking terrifying. You have a man getting his arms bit off.
That's a dog head in that one, doesn't it?
No, that's the Blair thing at the end.
That's right.
I think the Norris scene is the most iconic. To me, that's the most iconic part of the movie.
I feel like that's what a lot of people use when they're like making merch and shit too.
Yeah.
Like that's the head, that's the look.
I mean, that spider head, just even the tail end of that. Yeah. You gotta be fucking kidding. It's just a great end cap too. Like,
oh my god.
Will this ever end? Dude, when the eyes every time I watch that, it's just like who the fuck thought of this? Man, it's genius.
Like fuck. It just keeps going. Yeah, it's iconic. That's like
the
scene.
It's iconic.
The dog scenes are great. The fact that the dog head is like carried throughout always trips me out. Like towards the tail end, it still opens up and the dog still comes out. And like fuck, it's still just building.
I mean, I would have loved to have seen like Knowles pop out like they talked about.
Right, that would have been really fucking cool.
I mean, I would have loved. I mean, it would be very awesome. You know, alternative universe movies. To see the full scale version of this with John Carpenter getting every dime.
That Bennings death sounds rad.
It sounds awesome. Yes. Yeah, it would have been. I mean, I would love to see what they had going there.
Yeah, but I mean, as it stands, like the film itself is like just like what we got. Like, how could you really want anything more? You know?
Yeah.
I
always want more.
Some of their sequences too almost feel like it loses the claustrophobia element, like the chase scene of the dogs, like with the snow bikes and everything. Like, it feels and whatever the Bennings thing was, sounded like it happened out on the ice. Like that feels more expansive than what this thing that starts out wide and then slowly gets more and more. You know, so
Yeah, I like the way it wrapped up.
Well, I'm sitting here with my buddies. The snowstorm's kicking in, and we're all probably about to freeze to death. And we're just passing around a bottle of J&B, and we're just gonna see what happens. So, guys, in this category, I just, as brief as we can. Who is the Thing at the end?
It's McGrady.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. 100%. Now, I would say that the bulk of humanity, mostly the internet, would disagree with us. There's a theory that Childs is the Thing because you can't see his breath for some reason, but that's just the way.
That's just the way the movie,
camera was set up and that you put the lighting and all that.
That wasn't intentional.
So
no.
Also, there's no indication anywhere in the story that you can't see the Thing's breath.
Yes.
That's not like it's not like that was set up in any way.
Yeah.
So that's
no. Like, why would that it? And if you go back into other points in the story. You can see other people breathing that have been turned.
Exactly, and that's the kind of thing you would set up if you were trying to convey that to the audience in that way. You would set that up, and it's not done at all.
So I have two things. I've spoken about this particular thing before, and this other thing I came upon today upon this rewatch. But the first thing is towards the end of the film, when they knock out the generator and Gary says, well, that's suicide. It's going to go 100 below down here. McCready says it's going to go 100 below, and Gary says that's suicide. McCready responds with, well, not for that thing. It just wants to freeze now. Wait for someone to come upon it. Jump towards the very, very end of the film. You have Childs and McCready sitting together. And Childs asks, how will we make it? And McCready says, maybe we shouldn't. And and Childs responds with, well, if you think that, I might be, and McCready cuts him off and says, we have any surprises for each other, I don't think we're in much shape to do anything about it. Let's just sit here for a while
chill
and
see
what happens.
To death.
Yep.
Let's just lock it up.
That to me has always been the big thing. Like, what? No.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's an argument to be made that McCready's tired and he's like, fuck it. And I mean, that's fun. I am of two minds. Like, one is that they're both human and they both die.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. The other mind is that McCready's the thing. In no way, shape, or form do I ever think Child's the thing. I think Child's is being very honest. I think when he thought he saw something out there and he went and chased it.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna kill him.
There's no reason for Childs to go out. He's not the thing before.
Yep.
Yeah.
They leave him, so why would he be the thing afterwards?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And then upon this rewatch, I sat and thought about what Fuke says to McCready, which is, if any part of this organism can infect somebody, then we should all be preparing our own meals and we should only eat out of cans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
McCready is sipping on a bottle of J&B, and what does he do? He passes it to Childs.
Yep.
Childs sips it, McCready sits there, and he has himself a smile.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, that's just me, reading into it, thinking about it, how I want to think about it, but that is my thought of, like, there are two things that, McCready's just like, yeah, but fuck it. We're just going to sit here and we're going to freeze to death,
Mm-hmm.
So if there was an argument to be made that one of them is the thing, my argument would be that it's McCready.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, so obviously John Carpenter left it up to your own imagination, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm 1,000% with you. It's either they're both human or McCready's the thing.
Yeah.
It's one of the two, and I'm comfortable with either scenario. Yeah, and I'm comfortable with not knowing. Like, I like that ending.
Yeah.
It's a good ending.
Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate, I read one thing today on the good.
No, I like this. Your tidbits have been great so far.
Yeah, you did some research.
And the thing was that in the beginning, when McCready gets bested by like his chest thing, and he's like, "Oh, you're slipping," and then it beats him. He gets pissed off and he like dumps his whiskey into the fucking hard drive. And then they compared it to at the end when he thinks he's being bested by the thing, he hands it his whiskey. Basically,
That's fun.
It was like their little take on it. I'm like,
fun.
not that it might dull its senses by any means, or some take on like poisoning it or something, but he was just like, I don't know, it's like last desperation, like I'm gonna like try and get you drunk or something, I don't know. And I was just like, alright, interesting look at like a little deep dive, but
that's fun.
Something
but
different
again,
for sure.
That just leans to, I will tell you guys that
still
like out of all the people that I follow, everything that I've ever seen on the internet, like, with the exception of you guys here right now in this room, I have not seen anyone ever take a stance that McCready is the thing.
Really?
I've not read any of that.
Of course, well, he's a fucking hero, and no one's gonna
dude, to
push
me,
against him.
And I mean,
I think it's obvious that if one of them's the thing, it's him.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. It's like if I mean, I don't know if you've seen anything. I just like all my I mean, it's not like I do a deep dive and go like dark on this shit and read about it, and like I don't, but I've never seen anyone be like, yeah, no, McCready's the thing. Like it's only ever been me like being like,
weird.
how the fuck do you guys not see that he's clearly the thing?
Because everyone's a hero.
He literally says, "Wait and see what happens." I mean, that's
I mean, read the critics.
It's
Everyone wants a
counterintuitive
fucking hero.
to his mindset, like an hour before,
right?
That's the thing that really jumps out to me. But we're just all crazy here because we've been in the Arctic for 8 weeks or 9 years at this point. I don't know. So we're just losing our minds. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this episode because somehow we managed to go longer this time than we did last episode. But, fuck, it's been really fun, really enlightening. There's a lot of fun stuff we learned on this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Namely that McCready's the thing, so fuck you! I am your host, Jony Horror, of the Jony Horror Podcast. With me tonight, Brian Calvert, Kaylin Behrman, and we will see you motherfuckers on the flip side. But for the time in between... back off! Way off! Adios, muchachos!